Welcome to another review and discussion. I am the Angry Raccoon.
I am Ace.
And on this episode, we are going to be doing it on the second of two really good summer films.
Yeah.
Finally, most anticipated to watch, most anticipated to review, and all that kind of stuff. Baby Driver.
Yes, Edgar Wright's Baby Driver.
Edgar Wright keeping his discography strong, as always.
The sequel to The Driver, Drive and Drive Angry.
Yes. The spiritual successor to so many other Drive-based films.
I know. It's amazing how he put it all together.
Part of the Drive cinematic universe.
Yeah.
But no, jokes aside, I think before we kind of get into anything at all, please go see this film.
Yes,
if
definitely.
you want to see a fun action comedy, a good film in general, just a film for the sake of seeing a film for the sake of summer, you have spare money lying around, grab that £10, go see Baby Driver because it is fantastic.
It's refreshingly original.
Yeah, bonus. It's an original film coming from an original mind.
Yeah.
And you will enjoy it. We just want to throw that out there in case there are those who kind of jump in and then dip out real quick before the spoilers. Because I know there are some of you like that.
Yeah.
Fair dues to you. But real quick before we actually get into the film, we kind of wanted to talk real quick about our cinema experiences, given the fact that we both watched it separately.
Yeah.
For the most part. Ace, I don't know if you had any particular audience experiences regarding this film.
Funny enough, it was less audience experience and it was more timing, because I saw the film, I think, 8 days before it hit cinema properly.
Mm-hmm.
But the day I went there, because I saw it at the O2, there was a gig going on. It was like famous female singer. I don't know who. I can't remember the name of. It is a famous person though. Mm-hmm. And so I was waiting in the queue for like 5-10 minutes, and the film was going to be starting soon. Mm-hmm. But I managed to get to cinema just in time, and literally as I was sitting down, the film was starting. There was not even trailers, which was
But I guess that's coming from like a first premiere kind of showing. Maybe that's what they do.
And my friend was like 10 minutes late.
Oh God.
Which I explained a little to her that it wasn't her fault. It was the queues. They were ridiculous.
Yeah, everyone wants to see the best film of the year.
Yeah. But other than that, the audience was mostly, it was fine. It wasn't that packed, but
I'd imagine you had dedicated fans of films going to see this.
Surprisingly, some people looked like they were just average film goers, and I was like, this is odd but cool.
Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience with it because we saw it fairly late in the evening. I saw it with my mum as well, which I don't really see films with my mum too often. Yeah. And she came out really enjoying it. Usually she sleeps during them, during films in general. But she stayed awake for the most of it. And she really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. She particularly, because there's one person in particular she really likes, and she was kind of surprised by what happened with that character. But later in the review. Yeah. And the only issue is, other than everyone kind of just really enjoying it and laughing and like really getting into it for the most part, there was a kind of laughs and all that kind of stuff. But I think there were 4 girls on my row who would not shut the hell up. Oh, no. And you can kind of tell low key that they were 4 girls going to see this film because their boys, their men as it were, aren't going to the cinema with them because they won't shut up.
Wow.
Everything, it was just, they wouldn't stop talking about anything. It's like, let me tell you about this. Oh, that's sad. Oh, this is this. It's like, I can tell that, dumbass.
Yeah.
Really annoying. It's a shame. Me and my mom do not like sitting next to people in the cinema. Yeah. So it was really unfortunate to have the ambiance of them in the background, but everyone else was fine for the most part. A lot of people actually stayed for the very short credits.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's all good. I think it's time to kind of break into this film for the most part. So this is your only warning. Obviously, go see Baby Driver and come back to this video if anything. If not, we're about to drop spoilers right now. So
I couldn't believe Baby Driver died at the end.
Obviously not. The majority of people know that. But yes, Edgar Wright's Baby Driver coming off Spaced to Shaun of the Dead, which is funny enough called Zombies Party in Spain.
Really?
Which is an interesting name. Yeah,
wow.
Zombies Party. To Hot Fuzz, to The World's End, Scott Pilgrim, That's the one I'm forgetting. And then we finally get this, a film he's been working on apparently for 20 years, accordingly, which is a really great idea. I think it's definitely matured perfectly. But the main core of the idea is we have our main character, Baby, and who is essentially a driver for a high-ranked criminal, and he essentially is the getaway driver. And
he has tinnitus from a crash when he was a kid, so he plays music to drown out the noise,
which coincidentally flows so perfectly with his life in general and the general driving of it. And that's the basic core of it. Obviously, it's an incredibly original story and concept, which I absolutely love. We get this all pretty much established without even finding out that he has tinnitus, excuse me, just from the opening. Which kind of, because I mean, and I do like, the opening is very strong because it shows every strong element in the film. I mean, I think we're going to kind of, unfortunately, be going back and forth on how well these things are, but obviously it's, needless to say, the soundtrack is expertly chosen, as well as a lot of original tracks thrown into the mix. The editing is by far perfect. It's some of the best editing I've seen in a film in so many years.
Back on like the beginning bit, so for one single shot, like when he's like walking down the street and everything, getting the coffee, like technically not the opening bit, but it's all one shot, and the choreography is ridiculously good because it has to be in time with the music.
It has to be,
So even when he's walking down graffiti and it's got the trumpet and he's doing... That's amazing. Like, I don't care if you love Goodfellas. Fuck that shit. This is better. Because, honestly, no.
Edgar Wright, next level.
Yes. Like, much better than the Goodfellas.
I think it was a fantastic shot, and it's also kind of like, I mean, it goes to show the camera work in this whole film is fantastic. I mean, dealing with one of the trickier aspects of doing action films is actually getting the cinematography of car movement and work and the flow of that, and just filming cars in general is very tricky without kind of breaking the immersion. But I definitely think it's also kind of like a nice step up from the very iconic scene in Shaun of the Dead, where it has essentially the same thing. So even then, you got a nice progression of just skill coming from Edgar Wright and his team. Definitely worth mentioning. I mean, it sets up the whole film perfectly. It sets up the whole style for the most part. And even, like I said, without even knowing what's up with Baby, you kind of get the idea that, I get it. Even at first glance, he likes music. He's all about his music. He's in this flow. He's in his own world. Sets up and he doesn't even say nothing.
The character points forward and he drives backwards because that's his flow. He ain't following him.
Exactly, yeah. It's perfect. It's not until like obviously he gets to the hideout, which is led by Mr. Kevin Spacey doing one of his most bizarre performances ever. And he's got like his he got the next lot of crew who need a getaway driver, and they're kind of seeing this like weird kid sunglasses, kind of just like listening to his music, and immediately they're like, so is he retarded?
Yeah, exactly. Literally the first thing.
I would imagine what everyone to some extent would be thinking of, like even the
point being on the spectrum somewhere.
Is he slow? Literally, is that the case? And it's like, no, it's not, as we've already explained what's up with him. And that, that sets up the whole film perfectly, as well as we get like introduction to two of our main villains, which is great. I'll have to kind of come away from the mic and remember their names for the most part. So we have Buddy and
Darling.
I think it was Darling. Yes, I think it was Darling. Yes, it is Darling. Excuse me. Yeah, Buddy and Darling, who are his guys on the previous round, which are very obviously typical kind of like partners, literally partners in crime, which is a nice idea.
The Bonnie and Clyde kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically, very clear, even to the point where they make a reference to that later on in the film, which was nice. And and as well as we have like the next, because we kind of have the next kind of wave, I guess, of people need a getaway driver, which is obviously going to be
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx's character. Let me double check his name.
It's Bats.
It's Bats, yes, and his team of very comedically criminals.
Like so overtly criminal. It's great.
Super criminals, which is great. So you kind of understand like the kind of job and how it all goes out, and it's really nice establishing it, especially having Kevin Spacey's being this like high-rank criminal. Really doesn't seem like he gives a damn about anything other than...
He just wants his money back.
Yeah, he just wants his money, simply put. And I think that's all the kind of... all you would need to know about him for the most part. But I mean, and it works so well because, like, as the film goes on, I kind of like the fact that the villains are very likable.
Yes.
But you also fucking hate them for how villainless they are for the most part.
Yeah.
But you understand where they're coming from for the most part. You get like one of the most tensest scenes in the film, and the film does do tension very well in this film. You know, when they're all kind of talking about, you know, oh no, I'm more evil, I'm more crazy, you know, you don't get it, you know, that kind of thing, you know, which is great because idiotic villains would do that kind of thing,
exactly.
You know, for the most part. It works so perfectly.
And while he's got his whole crime life going on, there's this girl that he saw once when he was in the coffee shop, and you know he ends up seeing her at this diner, and thing that catches his attention, her singing the song B-A-B-Y baby, and oh boy, this was the start of something beautiful. I was happy about this, and they start talking. You know, and it goes into this whole conversation on songs. And I loved that.
You know, Baby talks about, you know, Trek's his favourite band.
The amount of songs about Deborah.
Yeah.
And then the amount of songs about Baby.
Yeah, and every song's named after him.
Exactly.
Which is funny. I really did like the whole theme around, like, Baby-themed songs for the most part, which is quite funny. And even having the joke of him saying his name is Baby, is like, what do you mean, like B-A-B-Y? You know, that kind of stuff. It's not a real name, obviously.
No.
It's not a real name, which is, it's fine, but I did like that theme and that corporation, and like, I think they managed to do the relationship of Deborah and Baby extremely well. It was like, it was really nice.
I know.
And it was cute as well.
It made me smile, and that doesn't happen too often.
I generally enjoyed their very cutesy, lovey-dovey kind of relationship. Usually I would like squirm and be like, oh god, you're going to break up in 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or less, or something like that. But it really worked here because with their relationship, it didn't just have to be with love. It could have been through just simple friendship for the most part.
Exactly.
And you kind of got that for the most part. To some extent, it was like, I mean, almost love at first sight, but it's not imply that we'll be together forever. That kind of thing.
A love of music and each other's personalities.
And that's how relationships in any kind of sense start. And I think it's very important to show that and establish that in the film. And it also gives, pun intended, Baby almost his driving force for the rest of the film to some extent, because things obviously take like this massive like dive when you got like so many conflicting you know, characters and, you know, so many philosophies going out for the most part. I mean, Bats being one of the most like biggest fuck ups in the whole film, kind of just almost ruining it for everyone to some extent. You know,
he likes killing people, so he doesn't give a shit.
There's no real issue with that. He likes to think of himself as the big man, you know, the big, you know, the thug and that kind of stuff, which obviously doesn't, you know, go so well with Buddy and Darling for the most part, who are a little bit more like get in, get out, kind of thing, you know.
And even Kevin Spacey was like, they were my fucking guys. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Once the deal goes wrong, he's kind of like, no, you're done, get out of here for the most part, you know, which I thought was kind of great. That whole bit was just like incredibly you know what's going to happen. Given the fact that we just saw a scene where it just ended out in a shootout with everyone dying, you don't know who's going to pull out a gun and just end someone's life immediately.
Exactly.
You know, you'd expect any one of, let's say, the 4 characters in the caf that just died just like that.
Yeah.
You know, and you're waiting for it and you're hoping it doesn't happen, which is great. It's a great use of tension. It's a great use of knowing these characters, knowing what they're capable of, and, you know, thinking about the worst and hoping it doesn't happen. You know, sorry to repeat myself. But yeah, it just works so well on the story levels, and I think the story ultimately does work so well for the most part. I mean, it's great. I don't really have any. I mean, we usually say this towards the end, but I don't really have any issues with this film whatsoever. The only thing complaint I would give towards the film is I would have just loved to see a little bit more of Deborah.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's like my only real complaint is I think she did great performance, really interesting character, just a little bit more of her I would have loved.
I think the only real problem is I didn't find Jamie Foxx's like performance that believable at times.
Okay.
Like sometimes it felt overdone. Like I'm trying to be this crazy badass, but he wasn't going full force with that.
Should have gone in harder.
A little harder, yeah. Because sometimes it seems like I'm saying something trying to convince you that I'm a badass rather than I know I'm a badass.
Like slightly part of his character as well. Tiny bit.
But it felt the wrong way.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue with
if he had like a momentary pause while saying one of his comments, then I can understand. Maybe that was more what his character was about, but I completely get what you mean for the most part. I thought he was great though.
Yeah.
My mom likes Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
So she was incredibly surprised to see him just die like that. She was shocked. She thought he was going to make it all the way to the end.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So she was shocked when he died. Like really, not like distraught, but she was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Because once again, you don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going to happen towards the end of this film when things start really escalating to like that third final. Like who's going to get picked? What's going to happen? Is Baby going to get away? What's going on? Fucking Buddy's still out there somewhere. Yeah,
because like Buddy's wife gets killed in a massive shooter that goes wrong because like Baby has kind of a change in idea. So Buddy's out.
Buddy
for Baby.
just cuts a switch right there.
And it's such a sudden like you're like, holy shit. He comes out of nowhere as the villain. It's amazing.
And I think it works because they did, they obviously set him up as a threat, but you didn't necessarily see him as said threat. They even, vaguely mentioned the fact that, he used to be a driver for the most part, so he kind of has that experience. So when you get that car fight scene, it just works so well. And I think that can kind of lead to another one of the strongest elements in this film. The whole film is the cinematography. Simply put, towards the ending, it definitely takes a very neon lit approach, which was really nice, given it's getting dark, that kind of thing. And having Buddy in the police car with the red light and the blue was like fantastic, that like shot, strong. Which I thought was very good. Just having him just like microphone and everything just lit in this hell blaze, which was a really like strong visual, and it just works so well. I did like the fact that he was the villain at the end, which is pretty cool.
I definitely saw some good parallels as well. Obviously, Baby, Buddy having been a driver before. Yeah. Both of them starting with the letter B, and then Deborah Darling. Yeah. The love, babies.
It's a relatable situation because both would do anything to save the ones they love, and that's kind of what it kind of came down to. I think so even Buddy kind of does say that, she was my everything. You know what that means, don't you? That kind of thing.
Great parallel.
It worked well and it made sense. It never felt cheesy. It was realistic. God forbid, if anyone lost a person they love, I can understand them not taking it very well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Simply put. But it did lead to some of like the strongest like visual imagery, especially lighting was like fantastic right there and throughout the whole film. You definitely almost felt as if they saved that strong visual lighting for the end, to kind of represent something. But I think throughout the cinematography, camera work, and everything was like very strong and all work so well with, like we said, the editing.
Choreographed great.
And that's another thing. The choreography was great as well, especially with the driving scenes. Yeah. I could tell where that car was going.
Yes.
Unlike some other films.
Yeah. We knew where it was going, and it was timed well to the music as well. Mm-hmm. So it was perfect.
Yes, it worked. I knew what was going on. Yeah. It wasn't like, a different scene every second. I didn't feel sick while watching it. You definitely had like, you felt it. You felt the driving, even... the sound design as well was fantastic. Everything had like just that extra punch.
It was crisp.
That punch, especially either whether it be a gunshot or just like the pulling of the lever or the turning or the screeching of a tire, even with or without like following the beat of music, which was another really nice touch.
That actually reminds me, in the cinema, at one point Baby's only got one earphone in, like the other one's out, and the sound was only coming from one side of the room. It was a great little extra detail.
Didn't I only half noticed that because it was a very small cinema room. But I did like that. The one thing I was very impressed with was whenever Baby does not have his headphones on, there was a constant buzzing noise, which I thought was a really nice touch. Just a slight. Like you could go the whole film without noticing it, but I thought that was a really nice touch, just to kind of, bring you into more of like Baby's world for the most part, because he is in his own world for the most part. He's just great, he's just this guy, he's just looking after his like foster father, he's just making beats, listening to music, collecting iPods, it's something you could legit see someone doing for the most part, and it worked so well. Because I mean, if you're gonna have an odd character, make them odd.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
embrace it.
Yeah, not to say that they can't have, they can't be normal in any kind of sense, but keep going with it. How far could you push it? In that kind of sense. And he was like a very weird character. Even his like accent is a bit like kind of weird. You kind of can't tell if he's putting it on or not. To an extent. Yeah. To be cool or whatever.
So another thing I wanted to add, and this was about the whole choreography and everything. Mm-hmm. So before the film started, I forgot to mention this. Edgar Wright popped up on the screen.
Yeah.
And he was saying how he shot this film last year and he shot it all on location. Mm-hmm. All the stunts are real, but like there was minor green screen.
Yeah.
And he hopes everyone enjoys it, everything like that. And watching it, you could see that.
Yeah.
It felt real. It was great.
It felt like this little crazy event happening in a town.
Yeah, it did.
And I think when you want to establish something happening in any kind of story, you definitely want things to feel real. This could happen. I mean, everything that happened in Baby Driver could happen and probably has happened to some extent. And having it just being this real world instead of some CGI bullshit world or
where
some
the cars jumping from skyscraper to
exactly
skyscraper.
Like everything felt realistic for the most part. I mean, maybe not Kevin Spacey getting shot and still standing. I don't know. He's just probably a tough dude. But I mean, whatever. But I mean, people have survived much worse. But
weirder things have happened.
Weirder things have happened. Yeah. But I mean, it felt, the world felt lived in. The film felt like it had life to it. And that's important when you're trying to get something as crazy and as weird as this going. I mean, if it was taking place in some weird dumb city, then it wouldn't have had like the same impact. We probably wouldn't have liked the characters or anything like that. We probably wouldn't have found as many of the jokes about people in the city or some of the scenes as funny. When Baby is running from the cops and he's going through like the shopping mall grabbing clothes and he's just you think we probably wouldn't have found some of that stuff as funny or as like silly or as like epic if it was just some random green screen of him running endless green screen stairs or something like that.
It feels so fake.
We did have like a small introduction from Edgar Wright as well, which was nice.
Oh, okay.
He was basically just like thanking people for seeing the film, which was nice. But it was always good to see my boy.
Yeah, exactly.
my boy right there. Proud of you.
There's another little thing I want to mention. This is more of a historical context. Mm-hmm. So there's this 70s film, which I still haven't seen, I think, called The Driver. Mm-hmm. And apparently it's one of the best car chase films ever. Mm-hmm. And all the characters only go by one name. So a character called The Driver, a character called The Detective. There was a spiritual sequel to this, like, someone was very inspired, called Drive, in which characters all had, basic name again. This is also inspired by it, and it makes sense. Yeah. The single name thing, the amazing driving action. Mm-hmm. That's why I also mentioned Driver at the start as a joke. Yeah. And it's nice. It doesn't feel like they're ripping anything off. No. It works consistent in their universe. But it's also a nice historical, homage.
Yes, and that's the thing. I think rip-off and homage obviously gets very blurred nowadays, especially because with remakes within the film industry being so prominent, it can sometimes be very hard to tell when it's just a straight up rip off or a copy or someone being homaged, because everyone seems to be very afraid to take inspiration from films. Yeah. They just go to remake it. You know what I mean? People don't seem to see the profit in original ideas, and unfortunately within current times, original ideas don't do too well, unfortunately.
Yeah. Quite a lot of times they're, the films that a few people see. And they don't get massive budgets. They don't get massive box office.
And I think part of that is industry meddling a lot of the time. And I think it's rather unfortunate. I mean, Baby Driver was made on such a tiny budget. And people still aren't seeing this film. And I'm like, what? Wow. It's like, I mean, this is by far, I don't think anything is really going to top this film or keep it off anyone's top 5 to top 10 list. Simply put, I mean,
like, it's definitely going to be on the top 10 list.
I can see this being tons of people's number one favorite film of 2017, highlight of 2017, favorite film in general, one of the best Edgar Wright films, because it just works so well. I mean, it's a film that I won't say is perfect, but it's definitely flawless. Yeah, because it excelled in everything it tried to do. Yes, for the most part. And you look at Edgar Wright, he wrote and directed. He has this a tiny team. He has like a great, nice, small cast of like actors who I think most people don't even know who most of these people are. I mean, Jamie Foxx might be the most famous person, but he's certainly not the main character.
Yeah, or Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey. I mean, most people might know him from House of Cards, but even then, he's playing the backwards character to that character for the most part, which is maybe intentional. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's things like this need to work, and I'm so happy when I do see an original film like this coming from such an original director writer, and I'm just so pleased that it actually works out, because you kind of hope that something like Baby Driver is going to be the next film to go, oh, we should do like more original films for the most part, and that which should be good. Oh, excuse the sound. Yeah, people are being crazy right now outside. But yes, I mean, one thing we've kind of like neglected to mention for the most part is the comedy.
Yes,
I think the film, although it is a comedy, it doesn't.
It handles it well.
It handles it well. It doesn't go. Stop. Here's the joke. It doesn't go. Let's be an all-out comedy. Yeah. Everything everyone says is sarcastic and jokey.
The jokes are part of like the scenario that's happening.
They make sense.
Yeah, like
they're not always jokes in the situations of the film.
Like probably the funniest scene, or at least for me, is when Baby has to go into the like mail place with Kevin Spacey's son.
Mm-hmm. Sam.
And and that scene is great. Yeah, it advances the plot, but it's also got nice comedy.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's great, and it's exactly what you said. Yeah. Also, a funny note: Sam is playing a PS Vita.
Yeah, I know.
A Sony-owned property.
Yeah. Which, funny enough, I'm pretty sure in House of Cards, one of the first episodes, Kevin Spacey's talking to someone and they have a PS Vita. He's like, PS Vita, I need to get one of these. And it's like, wow, you shill.
I mean, we need product placement in order to get some funding for films, so it's fine. If you can integrate it nicely to the point where I'm pretty sure most people listening to this probably didn't even know what the hell that was. They just assumed game console. Yeah. So, whatever. But Sam didn't go, oh, it's my PS Vita. It's the all-purpose, all-playing video game system.
I thought that was a nice parallel because of House of Cards.
Yeah. Which is quite funny. It's a double kind of like reference for the most part. But yeah, it handles comedy very well to the point where it wasn't just, like I said, stop, pause, here's the joke kind of thing. Yeah. It was like very subtle. A lot of what the character said could be considered funny in a lot of situations, particularly the one line towards the end where, Baby's like, oh no, I can't do this without you. And he's like, don't give me that Monsters Inc. bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something you only briefly see in the early of the film, and you have no idea that's going to become like a weird comeback in the end of the film, which is just,
I had a partial feeling it was going to come back. And this is because when Buddy and Darling are in the elevator, and they're talking, I'm going to take you to this place and blah, blah, blah. Later on, when Baby's talking to Darling, he repeats the exact same thing. So it's like, he kind of does stuff, like he sees stuff and he repeats it.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. He makes music.
Exactly.
But he's essentially sampling.
Yeah. Which is great. And
remixing it and repeating phrases he particularly just likes.
Yeah. So it was really nice when it came back, and I loved all those bits.
Yeah, it worked. It worked so well, and it wasn't like too obvious. I mean, granted, if there's a gun in the first act, you use it in the third. Yeah. But at the same time, it didn't stare on a shot of, oh no, Baby has a gun. Yeah. That means he will shoot Kevin Spacey at the end of the film. It wasn't anything like that. It was subtle things like, Buddy saying, I used to be a driver.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff which, you remember that. You used to be a driver. So when you see that final third act, you go, oh yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
all right.
Even if you didn't notice it, your brain did.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it just worked so perfectly for the most part, and I'm just happy with this film. Yeah. Are we missing anything?
I can't think of anything. I guess that Baby has a real name.
Yes.
But I'm not going to say it.
No, we can.
Because Baby is his name.
Yeah. In here.
Exactly.
In the heart.
In my heart.
In my heart. I mean, I'm just checking my notes real quick. Soundtrack.
Yeah,
real quick. Soundtrack was very well.
Very strong.
Picked. Yes, very strong. Even to the point of using songs which are much more infamous and used for other ways, but used in a more comedic way as well to kind of get other things across. Yeah. It's like some of the more like well-known songs for the most part, using some Marvin Gaye or Easy Like Sunday Morning, which was used more appropriately for that example, and has like a more coarse theme throughout the film, which is great. I really did enjoy the soundtrack, and I think its use was very odd, but it kind of worked. It was like sometimes you're like, oh, this is really weird track to use, but it also made sense because when you listen to that song, you're like, oh, okay, I can understand. It's tense, it's funny here, it's silly, it's that kind of stuff. I think it was definitely well picked, and also I like the fact that the actual remix of Was He Slow is actually a song you can buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great on the soundtrack.
I'm really happy Brighton Rock from Queen was in this, because when people talk about Queen, it's the obvious ones, and while Brighton Rock is still an obvious one, it's a lesser one compared. Yeah. So that was great, and the fact that him and was it Buddy were rocking out to it, that was cool. I liked that.
Yeah, I was happy with that. A little bit of Blur in there as well. Intermission of all the songs. Like, would not have expected that song to be in there. Of all Blur songs, of all songs just in general. Yeah. Just some weird stuff. And I mean, Egyptian reggae. I was like, wow, you are making references to Egyptian reggae.
And I think you sent me the article, and it was Edgar Wright talking about like how he'd had ideas for this film like 20 years ago, because he heard a song. It's like, I need to have this in a film somewhere. Yeah. And it kind of shows like he had this planned. Yeah. It works so well.
You could tell whenever Edgar Wright was playing said song, he was just relaying this scene, this idea in his head. And I know there are a lot of like directors and writers who are like that. Some can write the music, they write scenes, and it's also very funny when they can't get said song in the film, and it's just like, oh god, what do I do? Yeah, that kind of stuff. But I think it works because it's just so well selected, and it's definitely a film you can tell had a lot of care put into it. It didn't feel rushed in any kind of sense for the most part, and I think it's definitely going to be one of the most memorable things period in 2017.
Definitely.
Given, because I think we really needed this film.
Yeah, very original film. Even if, like, I know a lot of films still considered original if they're based off books and stuff, but this was completely original.
Yeah, I think
great and refreshing.
Probably the most memorable films of 2017 is going to be Baby Driver and Get Out. Yeah. Just simply for what they stand for and what they signify, being good original films that get a point across that isn't what their actual film is about. Yeah. Which is always good. Always good.
And obviously we're not counting 2016 films that only came out in 2017 for us.
No. Yeah. You can't do that, unfortunately. It's a shame. Well, nothing else we need to... I think we've covered everything we'd like to talk about this film. Once again, if you haven't seen Baby Driver,
go see it.
Please go see it. If what we've told you still doesn't make you want to go see it, then I don't really know.
Enjoy Despicable Me 3.
Yeah, enjoy your shit. Like, don't go see that film.
No, please don't.
We don't need that. Mm-mm. We don't need that. I mean, it's not needed. I mean, and even then, what else are you gonna see? Like, I mean, everyone's gonna go see Spider-Man: Homecoming. So once you've seen that, go see Baby Driver.
Exactly.
And then maybe, if you're not a fucking idiot, go and see It Comes Out at Night.
Yeah, which I've checked, and in some cinemas it's literally playing for a few days, and that's it.
Yeah, I know a few cinemas that are showing it all week.
Yeah, I know one that I'm going to that's got it all week.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Expect maybe the review on that.
Yeah.
Where it's not even a review, it's just us deconstructing other people's reviews and explaining why they're such a dumbass and why they shouldn't be allowed to have opinions be publicized when they don't even understand their own logic.
But then one of us will be a contrarian and dislike it, but for not a reason that anyone else has said. For an actual legitimate reason.
Cinematography was bad. What? You just pattern the system. No, but that's for the possible review. Yeah. We don't like to say what they're going to be because we never know. I mean, hey, we might end up doing a review on Despicable Me 3. Who knows?
No. I'm outright saying no.
No, that's not happening. That was a joke, obviously. But
I can't even joke about it.
Despicable Me 3 is no joking matter. That's why.
Exactly.
Gosh. I mean, you know something's wrong when, just for example, the British newspaper gives Baby Driver a 5 stars and gives Despicable Me 3 a 2 stars. But yet everyone still goes and sees Despicable Me 3.
Yeah.
Telling, isn't it? And again, we can do a whole series on how backwards things are.
That would be a very interesting series.
I'd hope so. Hopefully enlighten some people, for the most part. And I can think of some perfect examples.
Yeah.
But that's maybe for another time. If there's nothing else you want to add to the review and discussion, Ace?
Nothing else.
Okay, I guess then I'll end it like I always do. I was the Angry Raccoon.
I am Ace.
And we will see you in the next review and discussion.
B-A-B-Y.
Baby. Alright, laters, guys.